So, hello everyone. We're here in Rome at the Rome Film Festival with Alexander O. Philippe, director of The People vs. George Lucas. Hello and welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So, our first question regards fandom. Now, Darth Vader and Battalion 501, which are the only recognized Italian fans by the George Lucas industry, were forbidden to come to the projection of your film. Now, this is yet another barrier that George Lucas puts between, let's say, his beloved fans and the industry. How could you comment on that?
I think it's unfortunate. I think there's really no good reason for the 501st who are clearly Star Wars fans not to come to see our film. I think fans obviously around the world now have had the chance to see the film at the selected film festivals. Across the board, they're realizing that it's not an anti-George Lucas film. It's a very, very balanced debate. It's a look at a very unique cultural phenomenon, and in fact, it's very much a love letter, to George Lucas.
Yes, I mean, one of our main points was actually not so much the fact that it's against George Lucas, it's against the fact of who has the right to touch or to change a classical work of art. If the creator has the right, if he has to go against his fans or the people who have actually determined the success or the failure of the product itself.
Yes, I mean it's I think the central question really of the film goes beyond George Lucas and it goes beyond Star Wars, and it really asks the question, when a work of art becomes part of the public consciousness, does it only belong to its creator, or does it also belong to culture? Does it belong to everybody? And I think legally it's obviously a very clear-cut, very simple answer. It belongs to George Lucas. But I think we need to look beyond the legal
aspects, of course. I've spoken to other directors, and at a certain point they say, I have to let my film go, my baby go. It doesn't necessarily just belong to me, it belongs to all the people who can enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's what's really interesting about George Lucas, and also maybe a little frustrating about George Lucas, is that he's not letting go of Star Wars. And for many years, we've heard him say that he's going to make some other films. He wants to go back to his experimental roots, and it's just not happening. Instead, he's giving us more Star Wars and more Star Wars, and he keeps tinkering, of course, with the original.
Well, of course, we get a vast array of products, video games.
Yes.
There's so many that their fans themselves actually said, please stop making gadgets and stuff and commercializing Star Wars so much. I mean, a colleague of ours called Roberto Lufrigio actually went to talk to Jeffrey Katzenberg to go and tell either Spielberg or George Lucas, please stop tampering with your stuff, or please don't put that stuff in 3D, because it's just not,
certainly I think in terms of the merchandising aspect of it, I mean, you can't blame it. He's making tons of money.
Money, of course.
And, we're obviously here willing to give him the money, so why should he stop? I mean, on that level, I think he's perfectly justified. I think, the tinkering with the films is an interesting thing, because every filmmaker certainly does it, but George Lucas is the only filmmaker who, to this day, refuses to restore and release the original version that came out in the theaters. And that's very questionable in terms of his responsibility towards film history.
Of course. Well, actually, something else we wanted to know is, in this film, you obviously show how this phenomenon has developed from 1977, when the first film came out, how the new versions actually attracted new fans, but how other fans, the original fans, including me, were actually a bit disappointed with all the changes that were inserted. This obviously made something click in your mind and made you want to shoot this movie. So what exactly was the final triggering?
Well, it's really the fact that there is no relationship between a creator and his fan that is as uniquely dysfunctional as the one between George Lucas and his fans.
Of course.
And I really felt very strongly that this is it deserved to be observed, you know, from a cultural standpoint as a documentary film. And again, not against George Lucas at all. I mean, I admire him, I respect him, but this was a story that needed to be told.
Well, of course, you probably lived the whole experience first time. I mean, I imagine you went to see the film in 1997 as soon as it came out in the cinemas.
Yeah, I mean, well, in fact, I was 5 years old when the original Star Wars came out. But my first real theatrical experience was actually Empire Strikes Back. I mean, I had already all the Star Wars stories, you know, I knew all the story of Star Wars, you know, I'm not, you know, I mean, I was obviously part of that, but Empire Strikes Back was really my first big Star Wars experience, and it was unforgettable. Absolutely.
Of course, I can imagine, yes, I can imagine. Anyway, in the film, you also interview a person that openly declares that he's put the original Star Wars trilogy online using his laser discs, and just put it online because he said it's right that people should see the real original version. What's your opinion on that?
Well, you know, it's interesting because when you know, obviously somebody like Lucas continually refuses to, you know, to give the fans what they want, well, the fans eventually are going to
fight
do the
back
job.
and just...
Yes, I mean, they're going to do the job themselves, and I think that's inevitable. I mean, I think that's a reflection on, you know, exactly how much they, you know, how badly they want this, and I think eventually we're going to see restored versions of these films surface in high definition online if George Lucas doesn't do it himself.
Of course. And anyway, speaking still about George Lucas, do you think that George Lucas, through tampering so much with all his products, will eventually destroy the magic of Star Wars?
Yeah, well, you know, that's a very interesting and sort of complex question, because I think if you look at you know, the sort of the original fans, the purists, if you will,
of course,
you
yes.
know, I think some of them will argue that the magic of Star Wars has already been destroyed. I mean, I think Star Wars now means something very different than, you know, back in the day. You know, I think you know, the original films and what they represent, that can never be destroyed. You know, but I think if we lose that experience, if we lose those original films and we can't show those films to future generations, then I think yes, I think the magic will be lost.
And are you a purist?
In a certain way. I mean, I'm more than anything, I'm a film buff, and I'm you know, very understanding and respectful of film history, and you know, his refusal again, you know, to restore those films is the one thing that makes me really angry. There's no good reason for it, and especially coming from George Lucas, who has clearly an understanding of film history and a love of film history. You know, does he have double standards? I don't understand. You know.
So if you were sitting at a table with him now, like you and
Yes.
me, would you shoot first, or?
Well, I would certainly ask him some questions.
No, of
you
course.
know, and I would love to you know, ask him again those tough questions and get the real answers, which I feel like we're not getting. You know, we're not getting the real answers from him because we've heard so many different excuses for him not releasing those films.
Right. So your final opinion on George Lucas, I mean, imagine I'm him and you haven't shot me yet under the table. So,
well, I mean, you know, obviously again, and I want to make this clear that, you know, my first reaction always is that, you know, I admire George Lucas. I mean, how can you not admire him for what he's done? Tremendous amount of respect for what he's created. I mean, there's very few filmmakers, you know, who accomplish anything like what he's done. I mean, you know, Star Wars alone would be a legacy.
of course,
But yeah,
yes.
let's not forget THX. Let's not forget American Graffiti. Let's not forget Indiana Jones, obviously. So he is one of the greats, you know. And you know, beyond that, yes, I have my frustrations and. You know, I would certainly never call it hatred, but you know, I think at the end of the day, and the film really sort of explains this. I think the love that we have for him will always be the strongest emotion.
Great. So thank you very much, Philippe.
Thank you.
And Alexander. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
And may the force be with you.